Hey there, welcome. Thanks for joining me for Introduction to CARS. So CARS are Controlled Articular Rotations is what the acronym stands for. So we're going to be using these to go through our fundamental practice. We do these at least twice a day typically, which will be what we call our morning routine. By we, I mean the FRC community and Kinstretch community of different practitioners, which you can of course find online. But myself being an FRC practitioner and Kinstretch practitioner, my job is to try to guide through these basics, and of all the skills that we work on, CARS is fundamentally one of the most important. So we're going to try to keep it concise as best we can. This is something you'll want to do at lower irradiation tension in the morning routine, for example, and then maybe consider doing at a higher irradiated tension for pre-workout. So I'm going to explain a little bit about that. One of the guiding principles that we use in CARS is to use what we would call co-contracted tissues or radiating tension throughout the rest of the body in an effort to immobilize specific joints or tissues that we're working on. So what that means, if you might imagine, let's say to squeeze your hand, right? You squeeze your hand inside there and hold that squeeze tightly. That's irradiating tension not only through the hand, but begins to irradiate tension up the forearm. If you squeeze harder into the bicep, harder still you start to squeeze into the chest, the shoulder, and the lat, and on through the rest of the body. So when we're talking about irradiating tension, just to keep things fairly simple, the goal really is to provide stability for the body and to provide additional immobilization so that we can really target the specific joint. A couple of quick pieces of housekeeping as far as using CARS. This is very important for those of you who may be finding us from the outside looking in. We do have what we would consider a red light scenario. So nobody, of course, can be with you while you're watching this video to give you an idea of what's happening with your body. So most important, and we talk about this in Kinstretch classes, of course, is to make sure you have to self-manage because no one is there to follow you as either a coach or a guide along the way. So you've got to listen to your body. That's a part of this process. When you're listening to your body, what we want to try to avoid are what we call closing angle pains. So pain, we're not going to talk about what scale. It just means that something is not going right. And closing angle in this case means if I was to tilt my head over to the side, this joint, which would be my neck, means that when I come to this side of the joint is closing, this side of the joint is opening. On an opening angle side, we're not as concerned about the pain. Typically, that's certainly a story about your body, as my coach Hunter likes to say, but not necessarily a red flag scenario that would get you to stop. If, on the other hand, I'm articulating the neck and I find a closing angle joint pain, that's a sign that something is going on that needs further investigation, either from an FR practitioner or someone else who's qualified to take a look at the neck for you. Remember, each joint that we work on has a similar behavior. When I lift the arm, for example, this portion of the joint is opening, this portion of the joint is closing. So if I feel a little bit of pain or sensation happening on this side, the opening angle side of the joint, I'm generally okay to proceed. That means that the tissue is, something is happening with the tissue, but the closing angle side, we want to avoid pain there. So this is a really important point. Especially doing CARS, the goal is not to grind, shear. We want to try to work with the body, not against the body in this case. So part of your process, especially if this is a new practice to you, is learning how to listen to the body through the process, hopefully on a daily basis, for you to be able to identify what's going on in the body yourself or find a practitioner who can help you in your area and identify areas that need more attention, and then of course you can start to dive into those areas to help recover them. So CARS, Controlled Articular Rotations, is really a focus routine of exercises to get all of the joints and tissues of the body moving. Okay, so just keep in mind, closing angle joint pain we want to be very careful to avoid. So I'm going to take you through. The first of these is going to be the neck. In fact, I'll let you write these down. So we start with the neck typically, and we work our way down. From the neck we move to the waist or the torso, which we'll work on. We generally move to the scapula, to the shoulder blades, and their ability to slide and glide. We also move to the elbow joints, then the wrist joints, then we move to the hip joints, to the knee joints, ankle joints, and we like to work on the toe joints as well. Fingers are usually pretty good in most of us, but toes are something we need to try to touch on. We do also do spine work, of course, when we're talking about joints. The spine is one of the most important combination of joints that we have within the body. But today I'm going to skip the spine in the interest of just getting you through the primary practices, okay? So we're going to start with neck. Excuse me. First thing we want to do is try to work on that irradiation. In morning routine, we keep that irradiation low, and the concept of that is if I'm using my hands or my body, I don't want to create too much tension until my body comes up to, let's say, working temperature. Just like your car, you don't want to start it cold, slam it into gear, and then punch the gas. You want to take a little bit of time to let that car slowly come up to operating temperature before you start racing yourself around. So we do the same thing with cars, and as we move later in the day, maybe if you're using cars as an example to warm up all your joints and tissues in preparation for a more active pursuit, then we would talk about trying to raise the amount of irradiated tension throughout the body in order to be able to also aid in additional blood flow, fluid flow, and getting the body more engaged for the practice. So we're going to start with neck first. What I like to do purpose is squeeze the hands just a bit. You can squeeze the toes into the ground. Squeeze your butt, pack air down into your core or your abdomen to brace your frame. And then from here, we're going to slowly drop the chin down towards the chest as far as you can. From there, I'm going to drag the chin as if I'm drawing a line along the left side of the body. Tilt my left ear toward the left shoulder. Slowly extend the head back as I rotate around in the largest circle I can. Right ear to right shoulder, right chin to right shoulder, and then I'm going to draw through again. All the way through. And I want to try to keep a steady cadence of about 1 mile an hour. So this is not fast. This is a controlled articular rotation. Then we're going to reverse direction. Draw that chin along the chest on the right side to the right shoulder. Right ear to right shoulder, slowly extend back like my head is going toward the back wall. Left ear, left shoulder, left chin, left shoulder, and draw back down. Maintain the tension in the body. And relax. Good. Next we're going to go straight into the waist. So for this one it's important, I want to try not to allow the hips to move. So as I do this, I'm going to pack air down. I'm going to re-brace the frame, toes, quads, hamstrings, and glutes. And I want to imagine the waist being encased in concrete. So when I turn my torso, I don't want this hip point to follow. I want the hip point to stay as the torso continues to move. So there are many different positions we can get into for this, but for today, we're just going to work on standing to start. So hands are going to cross over the chest. If you've got tennis balls, those are great to squeeze onto. I'm going to pull this into the center of the chest and squeeze tightly. So I'm actually going to draw the arms into the chest as I squeeze the hands. Start to immobilize that lower body section. So toes, we want to squeeze the legs, squeeze the butt. Pack the air down into the abdomen and then slowly start to move into flexion by bending the body forward. Now to clarify, when I bend the body forward, I'm not rounding the back and hinging myself forward. So what I'm trying to do is from the top of the spine, as far down as I can get, under tension, I'm going to slowly begin to go into flexion forward until the body doesn't move anymore. Then with my left elbow, I'm going to twist my body to the left as far as I can without allowing that hip to turn. And then I'm going to bend over to the left as far as I can. And then I'm going to extend back, trying to keep those glutes squeezed, your butt in the back. I'm going to extend as far as I can as I rotate to the right side, coming forward. And then I'm going to reverse. Rotate right, bend right, extend back, rotate left, and back into flexion. Now normally I like to make sure I do 2 passes each, but in the interest of compressing time, I'm going to try to chop down to 1 clean pattern each. So Now we've done woken up the waist, big part of joint of upper and lower body. Now we're going to go to scapula. So scapula, remember, the shoulder blades glide across the rib cage. So what we're going to do in this case is some of you may have seen this idea of the ribs when you pull back or you get into a push-up position, that you feel these little wings off the back. Those are your scapula. So we want to teach those and help those, encourage them to move smoothly over the rib cages. So from here, I'm going to, again, brace the frame, hold my elbows locked straight as best I can. I'm going to go out about 30 degrees. From here, pack the air down into the abdomen, brace that frame again to immobilize the body. Elevate the shoulders as high as you can. Retract the shoulders back as far as you can get them, and then depress the shoulders down into your back pockets, and then protract forward, push them forward. Then in return, I'm going to retract, elevate, drive those shoulders out. Okay, once again, up, back, down, forward. Try to keep the elbows locked and the tension on. Reverse back, up, and forward. Good. Next, we're going to go into elbows. So for this one, we want to try to keep the elbow creases forward. I want to keep the humerus from rotating internally. So I want to try to keep this flat. For those of you who have ever tried to curl a barbell or a dumbbell before, this will be similar. Imagine I'm pushing my hand through dense air. So I'm going to brace my frame once again, keeping those elbow creases forward, and then I'm going to slowly, under tension, draw up through the air. Now that thick air provides a sense of resistance within the joint. So my mind is technically inside the joint. If you imagine the wheels of a car braking, when the brake pads brake on that wheel, that's what causes that wheel to slow down. So we are in essence creating our own braking system inside the joint. Okay? From here, we would do the same thing. Rotate over, continue up, rotate again, back down. And then we reverse this pattern. Palms facing down, up. Rotate the hands over as far as you can, back down, up, over, back down. From here, we're going to go right into wrists. So you can do this a number of different ways. Fingers pointed straight or make a nice set of fists. Today we're going to do fists. So from fist position, now I want to focus on the wrist crease. So these two bones here are going to want to rotate different directions, especially this direction. So what I want to try to do is keep this hand or fist flat as I try to rotate through space. So I don't want this thumb to rotate over if I can avoid it. Okay, so both hands, pack the air down inside the body, brace the frame, squeeze the butt again. Pinkies in or knuckles facing each other. From there, I keep the wrists flat, and you stretch down to show me the open face of those knuckles like you have something in your palm. Continue to rotate around and vertical, and then reverse. Thumb side out, not rotating, just out to the side. Down to show me the palms again, inside, and vertical. We do one more, in, down, thumb side up, and reverse. Down, in, and up. Good. Okay, next we're going to switch to the shoulder. So, shoulder's a bit tricky, so I'm going to give you the cue first, and then I'm going to walk you through. Once again, I irradiate the body, so I immobilize the shoulder that I'm working on. What I want to try to do is rotate this palm out. So I'm going to supinate it, palm facing away. And then with a straight elbow, I'm going to cross the center line of the body. I'm going to come up as if I'm going to draw the bicep into the face. And I'm going to continue up until I get to a vertical position. Now that vertical position could be in a number of different places. The shoulder may stop here, which is fine. What I want to find is the peak location for the shoulder without allowing my back to bend. So this is a really important point. We talk a lot about these rib points here because that what we call TL junction in the back of the spine here, we're very good at using this typically. So we'll compensate, and part of our goal through irradiation is to avoid the compensation within the body. So when we talk about packing air down and bracing your frame, we're also talking about keeping these rib tips down as if seated, so that when we get to this position, that the ribs don't expand and open up, allowing the back to move. We want to try to keep those fixed so that we have true flexion and extension in the shoulder. All right, so once again, brace frame, lock the tension down, supinate the hand out, elbow stays straight. We're going to come across the center line of the body. You can do this with me. All the way vertical, keeping those rib points down. Once the shoulder stops moving vertically, I'm going to rotate the palm and pause. From here, most of you are going to want to go straight back. What I want you to think about is, imagine you have an X on your bicep, as if I'm trying to turn this bicep and immediately rotate the humerus bicep towards the floor and the back wall. So once I'm in this vertical position, I'm going to immediately start twisting. Now the shoulder is going to have a tendency to want to go back or go up. I want you to try to avoid that. So I come from this vertical position, I start to rotate. I still want to make the largest circle I can, keep twisting all the way until my knuckles are facing the side of my hands and my palm is facing out. When I reverse this position, I'm going to go straight back until that shoulder reaches its lock position. I also want to avoid this thing. So we want true sense of where flexion and extension is at in the shoulder. So I'm going to come straight back, keeping my tension. Once I feel that pause or lock position, I'm going to start to rotate the bicep and the thumb in their position, and I'm going to continue to rotate that, making the largest circle I can. Once overhead, I'm going to cross back into center and follow that line. So now I'm going to turn to let you profile the other side. So from here, I still create the tension, rotate palm facing out. I cross the center line of the body, coming up vertical, keep the rib points down, high as I can get. Rotate that palm facing away from me, and then immediately start turning that bicep once again back as I reach, and keep rotating. Rotate the shoulder further as I continue to reach back behind me. When I reverse, I come back into position as high as I can. Then I begin to rotate bicep and thumb vertically. Continue to draw up, cross center, and down. Always interesting to try to irradiate tension and talk to you and do the exercise at the same time. So no one's perfect. I hope you're getting the gist of what I'm trying to share with you. So now we've gone through neck, waist, scapula, elbows, wrists, shoulder. Shoulder and hips are the two, I would say, two most complex joints that we have within the body. Spine's pretty fancy as well, but meaning the ability for these joints to move globally the way they do. So next is going to be the hip position. There are many different ways to do this, but what I'd suggest you do, especially because I'm a martial artist, is I like to have you try to practice it standing. If standing and balancing is too tough, you can grab a stick or a broom, 2 sticks or brooms as an example. Hold tight for a second. So I could use something like this, or a stick or broom, and I can use this to basically create a stabilization tool for me. What I'm going to do from here, if I'm holding these two, is whichever side I'm starting on, I'm going to squeeze the poles I'm holding. Mind you, by the way, I can use a wall, I can use a doorknob is a great effective tool as well, but I want to create tension in the arm here as I support to help give me that co-contraction. When I'm using this process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly draw the knee up across the center line as high as I can. Then I'm going to externally rotate, which means I'm going to turn this portion of the leg out as if I'm lifting this foot up. Then I'm going to draw that knee out to the side as far as I can without tipping or spilling or lifting my hips. From there, I'm then going to internally rotate by lifting that ankle as high as I go. Now notice, I stop here, but if I keep lifting my hip, it'll feel like I'm doing a great job, but it's not real. So a big part, especially with hips, because we use them a lot, is to try to keep those tissues honest. So once again, I move up, I externally rotate. Once I reach the end of that position, I internally rotate the hip as best I can without bending. I go straight back, maintaining the height as best I can, down to parallel. When I reverse, I'm going to go back, lift the ankle, shin, and knee up without bending or leaning as best I can. Continue to lift as I draw that ankle down, cross the center, and then I'm going to draw back down. All right, so I'm going to drop these. And we're going to go for the fun version, which is going to be unsupported. So if you can do this, it's great. If not, wall the 2 support sticks if you have support sticks, single support stick if you feel like the balance component is tricky, but you'd like to get closer towards that. And then there's a number of other variations I'm sure you can find online as well, with kneeling in quadruped position, side lying position, any number of different ways to approach this. So from here, I'm going to drive both of my arms out to create some stability, like a high wire act. I'm going to draw my knee up that same way, balancing on my right leg. I'm going to externally rotate that knee out until I feel that get to end position. I'm going to internally rotate, keeping that as high as I can as I go back. Draw into parallel. When I reverse, I'm going to go straight back. Try not to arch or bend my back again. Then I'm going to come out to the side, shin, ankle, and knee. Draw those up as I bring that ankle forward, across the center line of the body, and down. And I'm going to continue to tick-tock back and forth for at least 2 repetitions. Okay, so we have couple more things to do and then I'll let you go. The first one here is going to be ankles, which I like to do on the ground, or seated on a bench is fine. So some important differentiator here with knees. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be rotating the tibia. So this bone that runs vertically, we want this bone to be turning underneath the femur head. So we're going to wrap our right arm underneath our right leg. We're going to clasp our left bicep. Then the left arm is going to lock back behind the knee. I like this, of course, as a martial artist as well. It's like a choke, like a headlock on your leg. If that feels uncomfortable to you, it's just fine to go to a variation like this, or even just 2 hands holding the leg is okay. So I immobilize the leg, and what I'm looking for here is this portion, the femur, to be immobile. So I don't want the knee swaying. What I like to have is the tibia rotating back and forth. So from here, one more important point. I'm going to be working on internal, external rotation. External is pinky toe out. Internal is big toe in. I'm going to be working on extension and flexion. In extension, which is important, if my knee extends all the way out and locks, then the tibia can no longer rotate underneath the femur. So if I bring this leg all the way up and you have the flexibility to get vertical, then these 2 bones lock and it can only rotate in the hip, which is not what we're looking for. So if you find you have good flexibility and you can get to that lock position, I ask that you don't go that high so that we can still turn that tibial bone underneath that femur. Okay? So we're back to our position. Externally rotate, which means pinky toes out to the side as far as you can get them. I extend up, internally rotate, big toe in, and flex down. Now remember, my mind is braking, that braking power inside the knee. I extend, externally rotate as far as I can, and flex. Once again, extend, lift, internally rotate and flex. Extend, externally rotate, and flex. So remember, then we would switch. Left arm, left leg, grabs right bicep, and lock the knee. We would go to that one. So we're going to stay on the right leg for our purposes here. I'm going to switch to the ankle now. So rather than standing, I'm going to stay in this position. What I like to do is slide my hand forward, and now I can feel that bone turning underneath my palm. So I don't want the bone to turn now. That was the previous activity on the knee. Now I'm going to the ankle. So I want to feel that bone, and I'm going to use my mind to keep that bone straight and only turn with the ankle. So I keep my hand here to keep myself honest, and I begin clockwise rotation on the largest circle I can make with the ankle. Once again, back to that 1 mile an hour speed, trying to increase the size of the circle each pattern. 3 repetitions and reverse. Opposite direction. Don't worry if the foot does a eversion or inversion, that's okay. I just want to try to draw the largest circle I can get, both directions, okay? Again, we started on the right leg, we would switch to the left leg, do both, all right? Now we're going to go ahead and jump into the toes because everybody loves their toes. So, in toes, typically we do this work barefoot, which is ideal. Barefoot out inside the grass is great, but indoors is fine too. So what I'm going to work on is trying to articulate my toes without too much body change. So the first thing I'm going to do is place all 5 toes down comfortably as best I can. Then I'm going to lift the great toe as high as I can get it. Lift the big toe up, back down. Once again, outer 4 toes stay down, big toe only up as high as you can. Big toe down. Big toe up, little higher each time, stretch that toe, stretch those tissues, back down. Last one, big toe up, make that your highest, reach for the ceiling, and down. Good, so next we're going to switch to outer 4. So big toe is going to stay down, outer 4 are going to come up. So big toe down, outer 4 toes up, and I want to try to avoid this, right? I want to try to keep my feet relatively flat, toes down. So big toe stays down, outer 4 come up again, and down. Big toe stays down, outer 4 up, and down. Big toe down, outer 4 up. Up, 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 and down. Good, all 5 toes up. Bring those up as high as you can, and then big toe only touches down. Back up. Big toe only, down. Back up. Big toe only down. Back up. One more. Big toe only down. Back up. Good. Now we're going to spread the toes. So I want you to take the pinky toe and move that out as far away from you as you can. Touch that pinky toe down first and then slowly allow each one of those toes to follow after. All 5 up. Spread those toes out. Pinky toe reaches, 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 slowly touching down 1 toe at a time. Control that descent. All 5 up. Reach, spread those toes out. And down. Last one. Here we go. All 5 toes up. Spread the pinky toes out as far as you can get them. Reach, 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 reach. Touch and slowly down. Very good. There you go. So that takes you through, once again, neck, waist, scapula. We did elbows, both directions, wrists, both directions. Then we switched to shoulder, both shoulders, right and left side. And then we switched to hips, outer hips, which we did standing. We can use the poles, or you can use a doorknob, a pole, a post, anything you can find that can help support you. Just remember, the main thing is to try to keep all of those techniques honest, right? So if I find myself turning and there's other ancillary parts of the body that are coming along, you have to remember the body is a system of systems, and it's very adept at bringing other systems along in order to be able to accomplish a task. You won't even realize it's happening more often than not, which is why having a coach is great. If you've got a coach that's there to watch you, the most important part of what we do here, other than making sure you do the work, is to have somebody help cue you along the way and to point out areas where you can actually improve the technique, which means that you improve your sensory awareness within the joints and within the tissues, and that allows you to make more long-lasting change in a more direct line. So that's a great thing about having a coach or coming to a Kinstretch class, which you can find around you. So remember to avoid the pain of grinding, pushing. We're not trying to push through or damage our tissues. We're trying in a way to recover or reawaken parts of the body that may have, over time and through use or misuse, may have started to lose their functionality. So this is an excellent way to be able to bring those practices back in line. So we've got knees, ankles, and toes to complete. Remember, we have talked about spine. Here we do spinal wave, is what we call this. We also do these in controlled articular rotations, which this is. That has to do with me moving the spine forward. And of course, I can move the spine backward as well. This is teaching the spine to be able to move individually, but that takes more time, and I wanted to spare you that for today. Certainly, if you're here at the school, we're working on spine wave all the time, so you're getting some good articular health there. So I hope this helps you out. It's a great place to start. There are other coaches that are fantastic out there that are sharing some great knowledge about cars. But this I wanted to make sure I shared with some of you who are asking me, at least something that you can do at home in order to make your body better. So keep practicing. Try to do it every darn day, we like to say. Make your body better and keep training. Thank you.